This year of 2020 has been full of uncertainties so far, more so with regards to Canadian immigration. But this video, I want to talk to you about Canadian immigration, the remainder of 2020, and what seems to be in store for us. Stay tuned for more. This video may be slightly longer because I'm going to talk to you in detail about international students, the people who are already in Canada. Do watch the video till the end so that you don't miss out on any of that information. Hi, I'm Kubeir. Welcome to my channel. If you're here for the first time, do consider subscribing because this channel is all about Canada, Canadian immigration, the processes, the news, the updates. And don't forget to click on the bell icon so you get notified when I upload a new video. So the subject for today's video, Canadian immigration and the year 2020. Well, so far it's been looking very scary. We do not know what's happening. There is so much of fear, there is so much of uncertainty across the world. And Canada, of course, hasn't been left out. Marco Mendicino, the Immigration Minister of Canada, very recently participated in a Q&A with the law professionals in Canada. Well, one of the questions obviously being asked of him was, how does the Canadian immigration outlook look like for the remainder of the year? And he was quite optimistic. The intake process doesn't stop. The Canadian immigration quotas have not changed, they remain the same. On the contrary, he did say that he will be including the stakeholders so that they could look at the future quotas when they come up for review in the month of October this year. He also spoke about the different changes that IRCC has adopted in order to make it easier for the international students. For example, the international students are now eligible for postgraduate work permit even if they are not in Canada and are completing maximum of 50% of their studies online. The minister then further indicated more flexibility will be applied when it comes to the international students, especially for their September intake. They are in consultations with various colleges and universities to understand how they can facilitate the ease of the intake process come September. In every which ways, it was emphasized that the immigration is not going to stop. There is no plans to stop immigration. So that was a brief summary of what the immigration minister has recently said during his Q&A. Well, now let's look at the three different categories of people and how the remainder of this 2020 in terms of Canadian immigration looks like for them. First on my list is the international students. Last year itself, there were more than 500,000 international students in Canada. They have been significantly affected by this coronavirus pandemic and all these restrictions and changes in Canada. Their colleges were closed, they were asked to defer their semesters, they were asked to study from home. Many of them lost their jobs, they lost their part-time jobs. The social distancing also created a lot of issues as far as their mess was concerned, their hostels were concerned. So overall, international students in Canada have been facing significant challenges ever since these pandemic restrictions have been put in place. We are already in the month of May, and the students who are planning to start their studies in the month of May, their intake in the month of May, most of them have deferred it to September and some of them even to January. But a lot of them who are already inside Canada waiting to start their studies in the month of May probably now have to either study online or will have to wait for their studies to start in the month of September. So again, a lot of challenges for them because they obviously cannot work full-time. They haven't started studying. They can't work part-time either because again, they haven't started studying. A lot of them will also face challenges when it comes to the September intake, depending on what happens in September. As of right now, we are all keeping our fingers crossed and hoping everything comes back to normal as soon as possible. The social distancing is now a norm. We have to accept that that's the new normal in our lives. So there will be new challenges, there will be new requirements, restrictions in play when they go into their colleges in September. Similarly, international students who were still planning to come to Canada and were planning to start in the month of September are now having second thoughts. Do they defer? Do they do they defer to January? Do they defer to next year? Well, I would personally suggest, yes, do defer. Don't accept the online classes solution because guys, you have paid a lot of money, and the tuition fees of colleges in Canada is not cheap. So you have paid a lot of money to get a full-fledged student life experience. You have paid to be in classroom, study in classroom, get the complete experience of studying and get that learning experience. So don't accept for the online courses the solution. If your objective was only to get the postgraduate work permit, then of course you can definitely go ahead with the online solution that is being offered by the colleges. And just for people who did not know, now IRCC has allowed you to study online. Whether you are in Canada or in your home country, you can study online for a maximum of 50% of your course, maximum 50% of your studies. If you complete that online, you will still be eligible for your postgraduate work permit. That eligibility has not changed. So if getting a postgraduate work permit was your goal, well, go ahead and study online if you can. But for others who are looking to come to Canada as international students, don't accept the online plan. You are paying a lot of fees for full-fledged learning experience. Don't let that go. Try and defer your semester to January or even to the next year if possible, if you can allow that to happen. But if you have gap in studies and that is going to affect you, well, then again, you may want to give the online studying second thought. Another significant hurdle that I foresee for international students who are already in Canada or will be coming to Canada very soon is going to be the part-time jobs. There are not going to be many. There have been millions of job losses reported in Canada over the last few weeks. And CRA has reported more than 5 million people, filed for availing the benefits that were announced by the government earlier. So when things do normalize, expect a lot of competition when it comes to the job market. So the jobs that were easier earlier may not be easier anymore. I mean, we all know that finding a job is always a challenge, in Canada, but for people who are able to find jobs easier earlier, well, they can expect a serious challenge to find the same job. So if you are going to depend on a part-time job to fund your expenses, to fund your studies or your tuition fees, well, it's going to be a tough year ahead. In addition to that, for the international students who still haven't come to Canada, who are still preparing to apply to colleges, well, there is another problem. There is a problem with the language testing scores. I understand Duolingo and IELTS indicator by British Council were announced as the online language courses available so that the international students could appear for these exams and get the admission. Getting the admission from the college is one thing. Applying for your study permit is something totally different. So while the colleges may accept these Duolingos and IELTS indicator that was announced by British Council, will immigration accept it? Will IRCC accept it? There has been no announcement whatsoever that IRCC will accept these language tests. So before you go ahead with that, you must be mindful that IRCC may not accept these language tests. So please be careful before you jump onto that bandwagon. Do your research, check for updates, and be judicious in how you choose to plan your way forward as far as your upcoming studies are concerned. Next, I'm going to talk about again the international students, but international students who are just completing their studies in Canada. Now they are in for a bigger fix. Now, as you all know, international students, a lot of them, or rather most of them, depending on their studies, depending on their education, their program, are eligible to apply for postgraduate work permit. For example, if you completed 1 year of education, you may be eligible for 1 year of postgraduate work permit. And this 1 year of postgraduate work permit is very, very valuable to you because you will use this as Canadian work experience for your permanent residency application. If you've completed 2 years of study program, then you may be eligible for 3 years of work permit, and that can be a very, very important factor in your decision to have come to Canada to study, and of course for your permanent residency application. So now the international students who are going to complete their studies now, or who had already completed their studies and had already received their postgraduate work permit, now due to this coronavirus pandemic, the markets have been shut, the businesses have been shut, there have been significant job losses. Because all these people have a limited amount of work permit validity, they are in a very, very big fix, and I really, really feel for them because there has been no provision announced for them yet, but the fingers are crossed, and I'm really hoping that IRCC takes into account all these people whose very valuable few months of their postgraduate work permits might go down the drain because of the market conditions. Not only that, there are so many of you out there who are working in different provinces who may have applied for provincial nominee applications based on their jobs, based on their work permits, based on their job offers. Now, some of you may have been affected by this, and therefore your applications may be affected by this because, well, so far none of the provinces or CIC has announced any exemption that will be applied for students who are affected by these changes. I know there is a change petition going on, and I absolutely support that petition to extend the postgraduate work permit for the students, to give them a blanket extension for a few months, because that will really help them. International students have really spent a lot of money, time and effort in coming to Canada, spending on their studies, and there has been that dream and that goal to get the permanent residency, get some feeling of permanence here. And so we are hoping that IRCC does something to help these students out from this mess right now. Another challenge the postgraduate work permit holders are going to have is that in order to be eligible for express entry for permanent residence application, your work experience in Canada has to be in NOC, National Occupation Code, NOC code 0A or B. Now with this coronavirus pandemic scenario and the job losses, we expect the job market to shrink. We expect the jobs not to come by easily, and therefore there is going to be a huge competition when it comes to the job market, when it comes to job for NOC level 0A or B. I wish all the international students all the very best out there. I know it's going to be difficult, guys. It's not that the jobs are not available. There are several jobs being posted by different organizations. There are so many more survival jobs available now, whether it's from Amazon, whether it's from Walmart, and from other food-related businesses. But one of the largely hit sectors has been the F&B, the service industry. So you're talking about the restaurants, you're talking about food and beverage, you're talking about the hotels, you're talking about the retail sector, you're talking about the travel and leisure sector. Well, the jobs in all these areas are nearly wiped out. So it's going to be a very difficult proposition out there. And several other provinces have also announced that they're bringing their businesses back online. But finding jobs is going to be one of the biggest challenges going forward. That's all for me today. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video, do share, do subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.